11th house is the house of community. It describes your support system in shape of friends, allies, colleagues, etc., as well as the role you play in the collective. Over here, you can see how well you get along with others and how likely you are to make an impact. Let's take a closer look and break it down for all the planets through the 11th house. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. I do readings, I film content for you guys. I really like interacting with people on social media. I also host Saturday Lives on my Instagram channel, so check that out. If you like my work, please like and comment. Don't forget to subscribe and press that notification bell. You also have the option of thanking me by buying me a coffee. And of course, if you ever want to work with me and ask personal questions about your natal chart, do that at anastasiadoesastrology.com. That's where you can also check out my candles. This one has rose on top of it, and I have roses there, to get any support for your difficult placements. For example, this is Venus in Libra. It's perfect if you have your natal Venus in Aries or Scorpio or Virgo, because it can help you be more relaxed and chill and enjoy life a little bit more, versus Aries, Virgo, and Scorpio. Especially Virgo and Scorpio struggle with just relaxing. Aries is just more like head first into things energy. But definitely check out the selection I have. I have done a general video on the houses, so highly recommend watching that video first so you understand what they are and how they all work together. There is a link down below. Let me know if you have planets in the 11th house. If you do not have planets in the 11th house, still check out the planet that rules the house, because we never have really empty houses. People ask this all the time. They're like, I have no planets in the 7th house. Does it mean I am not meeting a partner, right? And it's not true, because every house, every sign is ruled by a planet. So there's always a planet that is like the landlord sending positive vibes your way. For example, if you have Venus in Pisces ruling your 7th house of Taurus as a Scorpio rising, it means that your love life most likely will be lovely. Of course, everything depends on the other aspects. But yeah, you know, if your 11th house cusp is Leo, listen for the sun. If it's Cancer, listen for the moon. If it's Aries, listen for Mars, etc. So what is 11th house? 11th house is a social house. It's the house that holds people in it, right? Similar to the 3rd and the 7th, but 3rd house represents your siblings and people you run into. 7th house represents your one-on-one relationships with your partner, business or romantic. And 11th house is larger groups of people. So here we find the community of people who are our peers, people we choose, like our friends, or people that we are just placed in together, right? It's like I am a millennial, so millennials are part of my 11th house, basically. Or astrology conference for me as an astrologer would be my 11th house. It is also a succeedent house, and succeedent means that it's the next to succeed, because 11th house, if you keep spinning the chart, becomes the 10th. So it's the next in order. And succeedent houses represent the resources the person has, right? So if 5th, for example, the house opposite 11th is your creative resources, including babies that you create. 11th house is your social resources, is your network that gives you access to information, to people, to opportunities, to connections, right? That's how we a lot of times go about finding work or go about promoting ourselves. We go on social media or we talk to our friends. So that's part of it for sure. All the groups that we join, our role in those groups is likely indicated by the planet in the 11th house. Like if it's the sun, you would want to be the leader. If it's Saturn, you might be the person who like organizes everything, but you know, feels upset about it. It can also show how important these relationships are to you, how pleasing they are. And another important fact to know about the 11th house is that it's the joy of Jupiter. And Jupiter is the guru, the sage, the wise, optimistic energy, and it likes to share the wisdom. It likes to teach. And there's no better place to teach than when you are in a collective of like-minded people. So Jupiter truly rejoices and blesses the person who has it in this house, in their chart. So let me know what planet you have in your 11th house, and let's talk about the 10 planets and Chiron, which are the main energies I work with. So if you have the sun in your 11th house, you are likely to want to be seen in the social context, right? Like you would want to be known as the person who gathers people. So it's like you see sun in the 11th house in the charts of a lot of politicians. Bill Clinton is one example. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump too, but he's not the best example. Yeah, because he's a Leo rising, Gemini sun. So a lot of times people like really want to be seen, right? Donald Trump really wants to say what he has to say. Like he wants people to hear him and see him. And your identity is also very much influenced by the role you play in the society, because the sun represents the guiding principles and your goals, and the sun is pretty big and royal and noble. You're likely to have noble goals in life too, and maybe kind of grand wishes and aspirations. Likely to be very helpful for being socially popular and really good to, benefit through friends, especially if your sun is in Leo and Aries. If your sun is in Aquarius or Libra, it's a bit more difficult. Check out my sunlight in a jar candle if you want to work with that. But for the most part, it's a good placement for benefiting through friends and attracting good energy, right? On the negative, you can be potentially too domineering with friends because the sun is very sort of, unless, would depend on the sign of the sun, but I think in general, sun is our light, our biggest, fireball in the skies that we live our life by. So when your sun is in the 11th house, you might just be a little bit too dogmatic and domineering, or you might actually also run into friends who are like that, as well as be friends with a lot of Leo people or Leo-like people, leaders, authorities. As a Libra rising, Leo is my 11th house. I don't have any planets there, but I pretty much always get along with Leo placements, and one of my closest friends is a Leo sun. So you might also be drawn to people who are sort of bright and noticeable, or be one of those people yourself. Could be great for benefiting through working with groups and collectives of people. For those with their moon in the 11th house, the moon represents what we need, right? So when you have the moon in the 11th house, you need friendships. You need to connect with other people. You're likely to be more selective with your friends, and you're not necessarily going to have like a ton of friends, as the Jupiter might represent here, or Mercury. Mercury would be like a lot of acquaintances, but the moon here would be like, you need friends who can be nurturing, who can be trusted, who can be relied on. So your selective process will be based on that. It's also likely that you'd like them to nurture you as well, right? But you might end up being the nurturing one more. You also have with the moon here, you have a strong desire to nurture groups of people, you sort of have this vision of the way the collective should be, or the way things should be, and how, there's a way to work with a community. An example of this placement would be seeing homeless people and thinking, like, how can we all figure out the way to get them living or get them back in the workforce? Like, you would be the person who actually worries or cares about that. Building a social role, doing volunteer work, working with people with disabilities, or sort of being seen as a nurturing person in the collective will be really important to you. And you may feel slightly sensitive towards the public opinion, perhaps a little bit more than most people. And your friends can be potentially extra emotional, or maybe you're friends with a lot of Cancers or a lot of water signs. Let me know if that's the case, or if you have anything to add. If you have Mercury in the 11th house, Mercury is quick. Mercury is talkative, so you're not going to be friends with a silent person. It's just not going to be, it's not who you are. You're likely to be friends with chatty people, with, writers or travelers or talkers or communicators or salespeople. Maybe you do sales because Mercury in the 11th is also a placement of somebody who is very well connected. You're someone who knows everyone, has heard all the secrets, knows all the gossip. You may not even try that hard to find it out, but other people just bring it to you. Expect like you're someone who likely to do a lot of communication, a lot of back and forth. Being a diplomat, being the person who navigates the collectives and brings people together is also likely here. Especially lovely if your Mercury is in Gemini or Virgo, a bit more complicated if it's in Pisces or Sagittarius. Check out my Mercury in Virgo and Mercury in Gemini candles to remediate that. But, in general, it tends to be giving you a role of a communicator and helping you choose friends that are communicators. You might also be someone who enjoys sort of journaling and writing down your wishes for the future. Like the more, if you're able to put them on a piece of paper, it sort of helps you make them happen, I think. If you have Venus in the 11th house, you are likely to be extra charming when you are in social context, where you come to a party and you're suddenly kind of shining, right? Versus maybe when you're just talking to one person, you're still charming, but not as much. Like you could sort of bloom and flourish and shine the most in a collective. It can also give you a lot of benefit from engaging with communities. It can also help you benefit through women, mothers, nurses, sisters, all of them, potentially women. There's definitely, I think a lot of joy comes from relating with people and helping people, and also being seen in a context of like a group of people. I can see this person as like, somebody who gathers her girlfriends and goes to a club and like shines and dances and all of that stuff. You can also benefit from your associations in monetary or social ways where they bring you opportunities. And Venus representing relationships, sitting in your house of friendships, could also be a strong possibility for you getting married or dating a friend, at least at some point in your life. 11th house also represents networking events. So like, going to a wedding or going to a conference. So you can also be meeting your partner at any one of those events, or being introduced to a partner through friends, I can see here too. If your Mars is in the 11th house, Mars is passionate, Mars is independent and pioneering. So when you have Mars in the 11th house, you are likely to find yourself fighting more, because Mars is also connected to conflict. So fighting in the communal context, and maybe being a little bit more aggressive with friends, or being just more direct, verbally sort of like expressive. It can also make you the person who fights for your friends. One of my teachers, Sam Reynolds, has Mars in Capricorn and he's 11th house, and I'm pretty sure he like mentioned being the person who would like go to the dean and talk on behalf of his like classmates and fight for like, music club to go and continue. And of course, like he has Mars exalted in Capricorn. Whenever you have a strong Mars in Aries, Capricorn, or Scorpio, it means that you're more capable of fighting and winning, right? So those are quite nice placements to have in the 11th house. You're also likely to choose people in your life that are active, that are passionate, that are ambitious and independent, and maybe enjoy doing active things with them. Like you would go hiking with them. You're not just gonna be someone who like sits on a couch at a coffee shop and drinks lots of coffee. Hello, friends. So yeah, like, kind of being active, being the person who fights for community, being the person who steps up. Maybe you are the initiator, the instigator of a lot of get-togethers in your community. and you sort of have this energy, this entrepreneurial energy, this like facing obstacles head first and just going for it instead of planning it for a long time. Of course, if Saturn is also sitting in your 11th house, this would be a different vibe, but Mars on its own is very much just do it type energy. If you have Jupiter in your 11th house, congratulations, Jupiter is in its joy in the 11th house, so you are in luck. And what this means is there's a bigger audience for Jupiterian wisdom, which means you're likely to have more friends. You're likely to be popular and quite lucky. So this is a very strong opportunity for being blessed with connections that are just loving and caring and supportive of you. Of course, watch out for being too focused on like the financial opportunities you get from people. Instead, appreciate the emotional, spiritual wealth that you can receive from others instead of financial prospects. But this could be very much like your connections bring you job opportunities. They take you traveling with them, just kind of getting a lot of resources or good luck. You're also likely to be someone who likes to share, who likes to teach or empower, like being the life coach here, being the person who goes on social media and, teaches people through their knowledge is likely here. Being highly moral, being someone who has like high ideals, strong standards, because Jupiter in general is highly moral. It's especially great if your Jupiter is exalted in Cancer and rulership in Pisces or Sagittarius. A bit more complicated if it's in detriment in Virgo and Gemini, or if it's in its fall in Capricorn. Then you might be still getting opportunities from friends, but maybe there's some issues with them, or maybe friends are somewhat compromised. Check out my Jupiter in Pisces oil. I'm out of candles on my website to get some juicy, beneficial energy from Jupiter. So yeah, like it's a great energy. There might be a little bit of too trusting vibe with this placement where you're too optimistic about friends. But like I said, this would be more of a difficulty if you had a compromised Jupiter or Jupiter in a sign that it's less comfortable in, Virgo, Gemini, or Capricorn. Brain freeze. But it's still, Jupiter will always try to do good things. So even if you have Jupiter in those signs, do not feel like this means you got some bad Jupiter. It's still Jupiter. It's still positive. It's still optimistic. It's still uplifting. It's just the results, like I said, get a little bit skewed. If you have Saturn in the 11th house, this is interesting because it's either you're someone who's like a manager, a boss, producer, right? Because you are very Saturnian in a group of people. You're someone who organizes it. Or it could also be the sign of you not liking organizing groups. Like maybe you feel them as a responsibility. Maybe let's say you're like an oldest child and you always had to take care of your siblings. So now you don't really enjoy doing it as an adult. So either, either avoiding groups or feeling too much pressure coming from groups and society and community, or actually taking on managerial positions and feeling like they fit you quite well. You're likely to have high aspirations, but may sometimes deal with delays. It's interesting because like Jupiter in the 11th can bring like a lot of opportunities and overabundance and maybe quick results, but Saturn is the opposite. Saturn will be like, put in the work, put in the time and effort, and then you'll build something long lasting. But Saturn just like really builds good structure. So I wouldn't get disappointed if you have Jupiter, if you have Saturn in your 11th house, because it's still, just persevere, just keep going, and then you can reach even more than you have envisioned in terms of your dreams. And friendships, wherever Saturn sits, we take things very seriously. We are responsible. So you look at your friends as your duty and responsibility, and you want to take good care of them. And you're not likely to have a lot of friends, but you're likely to have a select few that are trusted and, have been with you for a long time. So your Saturn builds long-lasting things, and that applies to everything. Friendships, connections, dreams, projects, etc. Yeah, so it's, it's a pretty good placement to have if you think about investing the time. If you have Uranus in the 11th house, Uranus is the odd one out. So when you have Uranus in the 11th, either you are the odd one out, maybe you're quirky, maybe there is something about you that's unique and you always come across as different, unusual, maybe your background is different, where you come from New Zealand and you live in Texas. I don't know, maybe there's a lot of New Zealanders in Texas, but you get my drift. My rift? Maybe my drift. You get me. Let's say that. So being this unique person is likely, being attracted to unique people is highly likely as well. So you maybe choose your friends, maybe they're all slightly quirky and unusual and you're down with that, or maybe they're just like, nobody you're with is going to be boring. You're likely to choose people who are fun, who have original, unique ideas. Maybe you enjoy spending time doing quirky things. Like, once again, people might go to a concert. You might go to I don't know, like a bike race or something. Like there's just something different about you and the groups you associate with. As well as Uranus could bring sudden twists and turns. So on the negative, that could mean like, friendships suddenly dissolving and falling apart, or a friend disappearing and moving somewhere suddenly. Or on the positive, this could be just like sudden connections and people coming into your life and maybe offering you unique opportunities. That could be a part too. But it's not a very stable influence on friendships unless you have Saturn there that can provide stabilizing effect. Uranus on its own can be a little bit of like a fun dance, things twisting and turning all the time. Now, for those with Neptune in the 11th house, Neptune is, of course, very spiritual and artistic. So you might be drawn to hanging out with spiritual and artistic people. Neptune is also very intuitive, so you're likely to pick up on the moods of other people. Of course, the shadow side of Neptune here is always losing yourself in the groups of people, where you just sort of blend in with their needs and you don't show your true self until perhaps in a one-on-one context, right? You might be very humanitarian by nature and drawn to volunteer and drawn to help people. You might also find yourself in positions of saving your friends or wanting to be saved by your friends, where, like Neptune is very savior-victim. So either you're playing the victim and they're saving you, or vice versa, they're struggling. Like, watch out for attracting friends who are just like a lost cause and you're seeing them as an opportunity to kind of, or you're seeing the friendship as a chance to help and heal them, right? Because you cannot really heal people that do not want to be healed. So yeah, like choose spiritual friends, but avoid choosing draining friends that are emotionally, financially, or spiritually unhealthy for you. Let me know how this shows up in your life. I'd love to know. If you have Pluto in the 11th, Pluto is very intense, very dark and transformational. So in your friendships, you're likely to be intense. You're not going to be just sort of fair weather friend, see you here and there. You're going to be all in, right? And then all out. If somebody crosses you with Pluto in the 11th, they better watch out. Doesn't mean you're going to do something to hurt them. If you wanted to, you probably could, but don't. That means that you are likely to just cut them off. Like, you have this very steely determination. You might be more private about your friends. There might be more things underneath. Like, you have two friends and it seems like you're all getting along, but in reality, you are sleeping with both of them. I don't know why I'm feeling like like some kind of Bollywood drama today or something like that. But yeah, there might be like kind of more shadowy energy in the friendships. You might be more interested in kind of connecting with gothy people or people who are into murder mysteries. There might just be like more interest in subterranean underground hobbies and connections. You might want to bring change to the community, right? Because 11th house represents the community around you. You might be secretly the leader of the group, or the person who like whispers into everybody's ear and connects, or like, you know, influences everybody, but nobody knows. They would not say that that's you who's in charge, but in reality you are. And that powerful, intense energy, I think, shows up as well in your passions and hobbies, where once you have a dream or a wish, you will commit to it, probably not tell anyone, but go in 100% until you achieve it or die trying. Let me know if that's you and how this resonates down below. Now, if you have Chiron in your 11th house, Chiron is, as we know, a wounded healer. And so it represents the wound in the 11th house. A lot of times there's a sense of belonging. The person might struggle with fitting in, and as a result, like really, really try hard to belong. So they might be coordinating, organizing, getting people together, doing things for the community, running around, but like always left with a sense of either they feel like they don't belong or they feel like they're not appreciated. And you know, wherever we have the wound, we also have the healing tools. And so Chiron as the healer could be very powerful for making people feel seen, for making them feel like a part of community. And my advice here would be like trying to not dedicate your time to huge groups of people. Instead, choose more wisely, choose other outsiders, right? You don't have to try to belong with an existing community that is not taking you. Create your own community. Do not try to force your way into the one that doesn't want you. You can become a great leader. You can become somebody who shares their vulnerabilities with others, and through that builds very strong and important connections. And I think the biggest lesson here is learning to set boundaries and learning to see yourself as valuable and as worthy of attention, and also not place too much emphasis on what other people think of you. So I hope you've enjoyed this journey through the 11th house. I think it's a fun house. You know, it's sort of can be very light, can be very enjoyable, because we all like to have friends for the most part. We like to socialize. So I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.